Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
You guys hear me okay? Yeah. All right, if something happens and this thing drifts off or something, or if I start standing back this way and you can't hear, y'all say something, okay? It's no distraction at all, but I hate to be not heard. I'm usually pretty loud anyway. It's gotten me in a lot of trouble over the years, and I don't know why it is that the smallest guy in the room has always got the biggest mouth, and I'm built like a jackrabbit. I couldn't beat up anybody, and I'm the one that's got to be out there slinging all this crap in the bars and all this other kind of stuff. It's good to be sober. It's good to know what I said, and good to not be worried about saying something stupid. Well, I mean, occasionally I still say something stupid, but you know how that is. My name is Myers Raymer. I'm an alcoholic. Howdy, y'all. My sobriety date is January 15th, 88. My home group is the Primary Purpose Group in Dallas, Texas. A big old bunch of lathered up big book guys, and it's a treat to be here. What a cool deal. I want to thank Terry and committee. And if you've never done anything like this, if you've never hosted something or ramrodded anything or participated in workshop stuff or doing any of this, you need to. It was great for me for years to sit on a fence and dangle my feet off and play like I was in AA, but not really be in AA. And it was an amazing thing to stop, to put myself in a position where I could stop judging people and actually start doing something. And the first committee I'm on, I'm going, holy cow, they didn't tell me it was going to be so much work. And it's just sort of amazing stuff. Workshop this afternoon was a scream. You guys did a fine job, and I went back to my room smiling real big, and it's just fun to hear that kind of stuff, and done that way with a bunch of people who enjoy doing what they're doing and having a good time with it. It's pretty cool. I rented a car in Jackson, and I flew into Jackson, and rented a car, and it was. I don't usually get a chance to do that, and it was pretty cool. Usually everything is real rushed, and this way I got here about 11, and I had a chance to just kind of drive through the countryside, and I got into my rental car, and it was preset to my favorite hip-hop channels, and I finally had to stop and pull over, reset it a little bit like that, and so I'm tooling through the countryside. I found a absolute bitchin' station, hot 102.5 out of someplace. Oh, buddy, I'm just telling you, these guys, besides the DJs being great, they were really funny. And but I'm listening to Marvin Gaye, and I'm not being disrespectful. I just don't know, why would anybody listen to hip hop when you could listen to old school Marvin Gaye? I just don't get that. But I know that's personal. I know, but it was some sweet ride coming over here through those fields where roads are as straight as they are in Texas, and listening to that stuff, and it was just it was magic. I was kind of hoping you guys were 600 miles away so I could just keep driving until I want to be real clear about something. There was a quote George Bernard Shaw said years ago that was good. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it's taken place. And stick with me. Just because I said it doesn't necessarily mean you heard it, and you may have heard it a different way, and I've had some experiences. The only thing that I don't like about doing this is that you got one chance to hear what I'm saying, and if you misunderstand it or if you don't agree, then it gets all grindy. If we're a workshop and I'm there all weekend, you can pull me aside, smoke a cigarette butt, and say, now listen, I just don't agree with that, and we got a chance to talk a little bit. So I'm answering emails 2 hours every morning, 7 days a week, and I answer 500 emails a week from people that I've met in conferences and places like this. And so if I get into something that makes you squirm, let's talk about what it is that's making you squirm. Let's talk about what it is that I might have got wrong. Because listen, I'm no authority on anything except booze and methamphetamines. But I'm not going to talk. We're not going to get into that. I'm a third-generation alcoholic. My grandfather was an alcoholic. My dad's an alcoholic. My identical twin, the evil twin, Chris, is an alcoholic. And it's funny. I remember at 19 sitting in a bar in Houston, Texas, and Chris and I are drunk as skunks as usual. And Chris looked at me and he said, "You know what? I think we're alcoholic just like Pops." And I went, "Yep." And he said, "What are we going to do about it?" And I said, "Eventually we're going to have to stop. But not now." And it would take another 15 or so years before, thank you. It'd take another 15 years to finally get the wheels off that cart to a place to where I was ready to stop. Actually, Chris sobered up 2 months before I did, and it was the coolest thing in the world. Listen, I don't have a lot of war story. I mean, a lot of my war crud, a lot of the stuff that was disturbing to me happened in AA, not out of AA, and not before I got here. And suffice to say, I tend to be loud, and I tend to be fairly badly behaved, and you put a bunch of other stuff in me, and things just get a little... I don't understand what it is genetically about me and I've met other men just like me. I'm not like I'm the only guy. But if we're in a bar, and you walk in with a girl, I have to touch her. It's like, in order. This is not a good thing. I mean, if you want to, because guys just don't like that. And I mean. But sober, I could understand that. I mean, but it would take me years and getting my face pushed around. Somebody said, "Myers, have you ever shaved?" And I said, "No, I don't want to know what I look like under this beard." I just like, my face had been pushed around so many times because I just can't not say what's in my head. Somebody said one time, "Myers, you got a Grand Central Station head, and every time a train comes in, you feel like you got to get on it." And it's the truth. I'll get these little side roads going like this, and it's worse when I was loaded. And so the resulting thing was I ended up being in a lot of fights, and I get pushed around a lot. I never won any. I'm not going to play games with you. I've been in more fights and won nothing ever. I'm the kind of guy that'll run up behind you in a bar and hit you with a beer bottle and then run like a coward. There is no bravery in me, and I'm just a bully. And the reality is that a bully is what I hate more than anything in the whole wide world. I hate them. I just can't stand them, and that's where the stuff took me, and it was just sort of crazy. So I got this crazy twin. Now, Chris is my go-to guy. And hey, listen, you got one too, okay? I know you do. You got a girl or a guy in your life that you sit back and judge and you go, "If I ever drink like that SOB, I'll stop." You see? I mean, we just do that. Well, Chris was my go-to guy. And so one day, he's working with me at a book bindery that I owned in Louisville. And he's working there, and he quits. One day he comes in, he'd had a blackout, it scared him to death. He'd had numerous ones, but he ended up in another town, and it scared him pretty bad. And one of the guys that worked at the shop with me that had been there for a while was in AA, took Chris to his first AA meeting, and Chris sobered up November the 13th of '87. And so now I'm working with this guy who's sober and making me look real bad. Because everybody's going, "Your brother sobered up," you know, and I'm just... I held out for a couple of months, and that was all I could do. I finally got to a place. In the last 6 months that I drank, I got in trouble with the law twice for trying to... I was trying to kill somebody, but it was real simple. I mean, it wasn't anything like... It wasn't glamorous. I was just... They knew what was coming, and I just had... I sort of... It was no surprise to anybody. I went into a liquor store one night to kill a liquor store clerk that had called my house wanting a good credit card. He didn't know anything about love and tolerance, and he just simply was mad, and he called and said, "This credit card's bad," and my wife didn't know that I'd maxed out every card that we had, buying things that I wasn't supposed to be buying, and it got pretty ugly. So I went down there. He knew what was coming. They were waiting for me, and as they were leaning me over the hood of that police car, now I'm on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce of that fine little town, and you can imagine what that town thought of me. It was like, I thought it was a big dark secret that, well, anyway, it wasn't. It's like, I never wanted to push my wife around, and there I was. I never wanted to be a bully to my kids, and there I was. I never wanted to lie. I couldn't tell the truth. It just wasn't in me. I'd lie when it was much easier just to tell the truth, and it was just kind of crazy. And so I'm getting scareder and scareder and scareder. My world got so small. Down to the end of this thing, I got to a place where the only thing I could do was just sit in my garage. I had this boat project for a duck boat. I was going to put camo on it and this kind of stuff, and I worked on it for years, never took it hunting, never made it out of the garage. I pulled it in, I filled it up with booze bottles, and I'd just sit out there and get squashed out in that garage, and it just seemed like the thing to do. When I sobered up, I went back out there I sold that boat to somebody, but I forgot to pull the tarp back off the top of it, and when I did, there must have been 6,000 vodka bottles in the bottom of that dadgum boat. I mean, it was just almost to the gunnels like this, and everything else under the sun you can imagine, and I was so embarrassed because he was standing right there with me when I did it like that. I'd been sober about 2 years when it happened, and I just you get the picture. So Chris takes me to my first AA meeting, and it was the coolest thing in the whole wide world. I walked in, there's a little shotgun room. It's half the size of this one widthwise, but almost as long. Big tables running down the center, pressed tin on the ceiling, this kind of Texas-looking stuff, old stuff, and everybody's smoking like 6 cigarettes at a time. I mean, I don't even smoke, and I'd go, hey, let me have one of them cigarettes up. I just light it and hold it while so stupid. Just like, we just ruined it for everybody. But anyway, it was but I won sobriety date, January 15th, 88, and it was the only, I fell in love with AA. I thought it was the coolest gig in the world. I got clear of the outside issues. I got clear of the booze. Things started going good, and it was like this meteoric rise. I mean, I just bam, I'm right at the top. I'm thinking it's the coolest thing in the world. And here's where your story and my story goes and heads off in 2 different directions, because you stayed groovy through this whole thing. Mine, about 3 years into the deal, I'd heard all your war stories. I sobered up in a group where we were buddies, we were pals, there was a great deal of fellowship, but there was nothing in the way of book stuff. There was nothing. We didn't work the steps, and we didn't get sponsors, and we talked about it a little bit, but we didn't really actually do it, okay? There's a big difference, you'll find out. And so I begin to get sick again. I'm trying to treat an internal condition, which is alcoholism, with a bunch of external stuff, war stories and this kind of stuff, and we're going to, scare each other into staying in the rooms. Well, the problem is that, let me tell you I got to hurry. Let me tell you how goofy this stuff was. We had some guys come in from out of state. They weren't even members of our group that dropped in on a group conscience meeting one night, and he said, we've been here for a week, and we think you guys talk about God too much. I don't even remember talking about God, to be honest with you, but they said that we talked about God too much, and so we put it in a vote to vote God out of the meeting. Yeah, and so it came to vote, and I just kind of looking around the room at my buddies, and they're all like this, and I just went, okay, and I just raised my hand up like this, and we just voted God out of the meeting. So we're not going to talk. We're not talking about the steps. We're not talking about anything spiritual. Why are we there? And then I'm wondering why it is that I'm getting sicker and sicker and sicker. 5 years into the gig, 5 years from my last drink and outside issue, I am now thinking about suicide every day. I can't keep my eyes off other women. Every woman in AA is more exciting than my wife, which is not a good idea if you want to stay married, okay? I'm just a little inside piece of information, gentlemen. It's like, I'm just writing hot checks all over Denton County. My burn rate on credit cards is astronomical. Crazy, crazy. My wife is baffled. Totally just 5 years into the gig, I'm nuttier than a squirrel turd, and she's trying to figure out why. I'm not drinking anymore. I'm not doing any of this other stuff. Man. I wish I hadn't said that. I'm going to catch some hell for that. I'm sorry. It's like, I stayed there 2 more years after that. At the end of 2 years, I'm just going nuts. I'm not going to make it. I know I'm going to get loaded or kill myself. I know that's the way it's going to roll. I remember talking to a guy one night after a meeting like this, and he said, Muddy, I know you're hurting. I know what you need to do. You just need to go to some more meetings. And I said, brother, I'm going to 6 meetings a week now. How many, what does it take? Well, maybe more for you. I said, well, maybe it did. Guys, I remember walking outside. I walked outside, and I got in my old Toyota Land Cruiser and put my head down on that steering wheel, closed the door, and cried like a little kid. I just wept. I just didn't want to be, I don't want to hurt. I don't want to. Nobody told me that with the package of alcoholism comes this restless, irritable, and discontent that we all know so much about today. We talk about it some, but I mean, nobody could explain to me why it was that I'm so unhappy. Why am I just unraveling it? Like it. We see in the spectrum of AA across the board, we see thousands and thousands of examples of this a day, where people become addicted to other things once they get in here. They're not treating the internal condition, so I'll just treat it with this, and it'll be in food or sex or what. Men, how many of you guys are sponsoring guys that are twisted up in porn? It happened. Billions of us like this. And the problem we run into is that we're trying to treat an internal condition with something else. And it's baffling. Almost drank one night. It was a real scary deal for me. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to do any of that other stuff. I just wanted to be done with it. And I called Chris. Now, Chris has moved to the Hill Country, got something called a big book sponsor. Don't know what that was. Didn't really give a rat's fuzzy butt. I just knew that when I talked to him, he was happy. He would just be laughing all the time. And I'm going, I don't get this. What's going on? Chris said, look, I've been telling you for years now. You're going to have to get clear of that group. You're going to have to go someplace where they're going to teach you some stuff about the solution. Because Myers, my whole world opened up when we just started teaching what was in the text that you're too lazy to read. I'm not lazy. Yes, you are. Hang up. That's just the way it is. I mean, he just nailed me. And I go, oh, okay. A couple of days later, he calls me back and he says, hey, listen, I'm going to be in Dallas in 2 days. Don't do anything like that. I'm coming up there with a guy, and he's going to do a talk up there, and there's an old dude that we want you to meet. We've heard that he's up there. He's the guy that invited us to come, and he is awesome on the telephone. We'll go see. So they come to Dallas, meet Cliff Bishop. I'll bust his anonymity every chance I get. Sue me. I mean, he's 90 years old. He's the smartest guy I've ever met in my whole life, and he's still my sponsor all these years later. But so Clifford's just a tough old egg, man. And I call him up, and he says, "Yeah, I'll come over," and I go see him. And so I walk into the front door like this, and as I walk in, I knock on the door, and he opens it up, and he goes, "Where's your big book?" And I kind of went, I don't know. I hadn't seen it in some years. And he goes, "Well, here's mine," and he hits me in the stomach just like that. He hits me in the stomach, and I said, I'm not feeling any love, guys. Do you understand? I'm coming from a group where we do a lot of hugging and a lot of fellowshipping and this kind of stuff, and I ain't digging this hitting me in the stomach with a big book. And he says, don't come back over here without it. And I went, yes, sir. And then I'm standing there, and then he just turns around and walks back into his house. Now, I'm thinking, I can outrun him. I can get clear of him for sure. He's old as dirt then. And he goes, but I knew. You ever have these moments of clarity where you just go, I got to do this? There's something about the way that this guy stood in that doorway that just shouted, you better follow me if you want to do this. And I just went, okay. And I walked back there in that little living room that his wife would later take me through the steps in Al-Anon, and she was something special, I tell you. And Clifford started asking me questions, AA questions, AA 101 questions. I'm talking about he's lobbing grapefruits at me, guys, nothing hard. Who were the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, Myers? Some old dudes? Shit, I don't know. What difference does it make? And that's how the conversation was. And for about 10 minutes, he's asking me questions, and I'm trying to BS it. And his wife, later, Elaine would tell me, this is years later, she said, that's the single most uncomfortable conversation I've ever heard two men have. And it was, because my face was getting beet red. I don't like being made fun of or a fool, and that's what I felt like he was doing. And he wasn't. What he was trying to get me to understand is that there's a program called Alcoholics Anonymous, and I don't know anything about the program because I'm too busy running my yap in meetings playing AA. Oh, almost gleeked you. Did you see it? I almost got you like that. Y'all get ready. I hadn't even got lathered up yet. When I do, y'all be ducking like this. I've had all those shots. It's okay. So here's what happens. Within a week or two, I'm a solid member of their group. And the crazy part about it is that I still want to do it like I was doing in my group. And now I'm hacking off all those old big book thumpers in there, all those kids, and they're all enthusiastic and this kind of stuff. And every time there's an opportunity for me to share, there's a big book studies. You don't share unless you understand the text. I want to share opinions and ideas. I have a head full of opinions and ideas. And so every time there's a chance, I'm going, I know that one. And then I'd share something that was just completely off the wall, just stupid, and everybody'd go, like this. Finally, one night, Clifford gets up like this, and he's walking toward me. I just shared something pithy, and I thought that was pretty special. And he walks across. Everybody's head is down, and everybody's disgusted with me because of what I'm doing. And he walks, and as he walks towards me, I'm thinking he's going to say something cool to me. And as he walks past me, he throws a note on the table, and it hits the table, hits my stomach, and falls off on the floor. And I'm thinking, wow. He could have just said how much he dug what I said. I mean, it was just like... I'm thinking that's the case. I pick it up and it says, why don't you shut up until you know what's in that book? Have you ever been bitch slapped by your sponsor? I mean, I just felt like, I said, man, okay. I got up and said, screw you, I don't need this stinking place. And I walked to the door and I got all the way to the wall and to the door, and there was a guy standing there, a guy named Philip File. I'll still bust his anonymity every talk I do too. And I go, Philip's standing there and he goes, don't leave, whatever you do. You'll die if you leave, and you know it as well as I do. And I went, I think you're right. And he goes, and by the way, a bunch of us have gotten that note. And he went and sat down. And I sat down, and that was it. Funny part about it was within 2 weeks, my ego had been tamped down enough that I was actually opening up to the idea of learning something new about a program. We come in and we tell you guys brand new, keep an open mind, keep an open mind. And then 3 years into the gig, what do? Our head just snaps shut. I don't want any new ideas. I don't want anything. We see it all the time. All the time. Be willing to look at this stuff from a different perspective and see. You'll be amazed at the stuff that you can learn out there. I learn something every day. Talking to Terry today, I'm head full of stuff that I'm learning every day from folks. Let me. If you looked on the book on page 17, y'all don't reach for them. I know they're right there under your table, but let me read this. On page 17, there was a line that I just want to read, and then we'll talk a second. The feeling of having shared in a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us. Hold your finger right there. Anybody ever forget what it's like to walk into an AA meeting? I mean, it's hard to do, and once you do it, you might be 20 minutes into it before you even look up off the table, and then you start kind of looking around, and you realize that you're in a room with a bunch of little drunks and little dope fiends that are sticking around the edges and stuff. But you understand how cool it is to be in a room full of people that understand you and understand what you're going through. Like, it's the sweetest. But listen what Bill does, because Bill messes it up right here. Because I was digging it right up to that point. Now what he says, but that in itself would never have held us together as we are now joined. He's getting ready to slide something in sideways. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we've discovered a common solution. Wow. It may not be profound to some of you, but it blew me away. In a room full of men and women that loved me to death, these were no jerks, these were great people. Well, we all had different ideas and opinions about the work, and we all were coming at it from a different perspective, and not one of us in that great big old group I sobered up in ever seemed to want to take the time to wonder what we sounded like to the new guy. The brand new guy that came in, what's he hearing? Somebody over here is talking about doing the steps in 35 or 40 days. Somebody over here is talking about doing a step a month, so it's going to take a year. Somebody else over there said they didn't even work the steps. I met a lady in my home group that I loved dearly like this that said, you know, I never worked any of those steps. I just stayed sober doing yoga. Listen, I mean, she has a right to that opinion. The problem is, in a meeting setting like this, do we ever notice, do we ever even stop to think how profoundly foolish we sound to some people that come in and audit our meetings that just sit there? They're sitting there trying to get a beat on it. So what do? Do I work them quick or do I work them slow? Do I do this? What do I do? Common solution. I'm not saying that we're trying to raise up an army of robots out there with everybody doing it exactly the same, but the steps were set up in a way that we could understand them. The directions the basic text gave us like this should tell us precisely, they use those words, precisely, exactly, of how to get guys through this stuff. It just seems odd that we would be so willing to. There's a guy named D.A. Carson. He is not in AA. I keep thinking he's going to call me someday. He's a theologian. And Carson, in a talk that he did one time, there's a little quote in there that said, "We drift towards compromise and call it tolerance." Guys, that's us. That's us. We took a program that was so ferocious in nature, and we just sort of took the teeth out of it. We just declawed it. Because we made it subjective. Worldwide, guys, where you are, I've talked to enough of you to know there's good, strong AA where you are, and you guys are digging it, and people are getting sober and staying sober. And I am grateful. But I got to tell you guys, there is geographical areas where there is none of that going on. It is unbelievable. And all you got to do is travel some and start asking questions, and you'll begin to see what I'm seeing. This idea, we made the big book subjective like we have other great pieces of literature. That other book, the big book, we made it subjective too. Well, that big book, it means what I say it means. No, comma, it doesn't. It means what Bill Wilson in the first 100 meant for it to be, and it's our job just to simply read it and do what they ask us to do if we want the same experience that they had. It's not rocket science. It's pretty clear. The cool part about this stuff is that, all right, let me just tell you a fast story. It's fast. I was asked to do a talk at a rural part of Texas. I'm not going to tell you where it is because they'll come get me anyway someday. I'm going to wake up dead and they're going to get me. So I get over there like 45 minutes early. I drove right to it. It was in the middle of nowhere. It's a recreation area, big lake out there like that. I can't say anymore. Everybody's dressed in cutoffs and tank tops, okay? I show up to do the talk dressed just like this. So I'm sitting in the thing like 45 minutes early, like there's a guy walks in ahead of me. The room is completely empty except me and one guy. He waves at me when I walk in. I wave back at him, and I sit down, and he walks out the back door. I hear the back door closed, and I'm sitting in that meeting all by myself. 25 minutes I sat in that meeting all by myself. I'm beginning to think maybe I got the wrong place or the wrong night or the wrong something, and I look back, finally a guy walks in. He kind of nods like this and sits down at the table, but he never said one word to me. He just sat there. He's looking straight ahead. Pretty soon another guy comes in, and they start a little quiet conversation going on, but neither one of them ever acknowledged me in. And I'm just sitting there at the end of the table like this. I got my big book on my lap like this, and pretty soon some other people come in. We got about 15 people in there. Nobody's acknowledged me yet. I'm just sitting there. Okay. So this lady comes walking in, and she's holding this great big plastic doll about this big. And she's got it under her arm like this, and she walks over and she sits down at a table that's sitting right across from me like this, and she's just sitting there. She didn't say anything to me. She's just sitting there playing with that doll like this, and I'm thinking, wow. You don't see that every day. And a little bit later, another girl comes walking in. A smaller version of the other one. I think it's a mother-daughter thing, but I'm not sure. They weren't talking to me, so I couldn't find out. But she had a doll too. And so, okay, look, I got to get to the end of this story because we got important stuff to talk about. So here's the situation. I'm in a perfectly quiet room where nobody's talking, and there's two ladies in the room with great big plastic dolls, and now they're walking them across the table, and the only thing you can hear are those plastic feet walking on that table. And then they start doing doll talk back and forth. One of them would go, wah, 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 like this, and then they'd go, wah, 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 like this, and that's all I can hear. I can't just like this, and it's like one of those dream things where the room just gets like a big tunnel like this. Like Did you ever see the Twilight Zone or Outer Limits where aliens came and got them, and they had these little stinger things coming out of the back of their head like that? It was whack times 10, and that. I kept looking like this, trying to see if the guy sitting next to me had a little stinger coming out of his back. Like, okay, other than a crazy story, let me tell you why this is important. Because 3 short years later, my oldest daughter, who I love more than anything in the whole wide world, would get in a world of trouble around the booze and dope. And she needed to be someplace. And she needed to be in AA. She needed to be there with people to help her. And my question would be, as long as I had no family there, it could be fun and games, and you do whatever you want to do, and tolerance could just, well, I don't, whatever, that's their group, let them do whatever they want to do. But when my daughter got here, everything began to change, because the question became, what if my daughter had walked into that meeting? What would I have done? What would she have done? Guys, listen, I love you to death. I tell you, and I get unbelievably irritated at how harshly we're judged by the public. But I got to tell you, just between me and you, brothers and sisters in the fellowship, sometimes I think we deserve some of the stuff that we get because we allow things to happen. We allow things to happen in our group. Is there any of you in here that have not been in a meeting where the meeting was held hostage by somebody that wanted to talk about something off topic for 30 minutes with 60 people sitting in the room? I mean, it happens all the time. Now, listen, I get love and tolerance. I get that stuff. I'm just saying, where did it get, why did it get that his right to share something off topic for 30 minutes superseded her right to hear the truth that might save her life? That's a simple question. You see? I run every day if I can. I was down at South Padre Island where I have a part-time gig down there, a part-time job, and I was running along the causeway one day and tripped on a shoelace and fell. And it's at spring break, and there's like 100,000 kids on the causeway like that. There's 20 kids that I had to go around to run, and I fell right in front of them. Well, as soon as I fell, they all started laughing. All of them did like this, and I'm just a pile of old bones laying on the ground, okay? You younger guys, let me just tell you like that. You fall when you're young, you get up and go, oh, it's okay, no problem, no problem. Man, when you're my age and you fall, you sit there for a second and see what's busted. I mean, it's just like, it sounded like a load of sticks dropping off a truck. I mean, it's just like, well, the funny part about it was that they all started laughing, and then they just walked around me, and not one person said anything to me like this. And all of a sudden, I feel myself being picked up like this, and I turned around, and there's a guy on the island that's kind of an iconic kind of guy. He's really badly deformed on one side, a brutal alcoholic, and he just walks up and down the beach, and he was just a mess, and he picked me up. And he said, can I walk with you a minute till you're okay? And I went, yeah. And he walks with me a little bit like this, and I'm okay, nothing, no harm, and I just tied a shoelace like I was supposed to and took off, and I was fine. But as I'm running, I'm thinking about this stuff. I think that some of these kids were raised right. I'm not ready to discount a bunch of kids because they were laughing. I'm thinking it's like this. You get a bunch of people together, and how many of us do stupid things just to be accepted? How many of us will let things happen because we don't want to take the heat, because we don't want to, you see? And it's an exact kind of situation that I see in our fellowship. I see hundreds and hundreds of people who know better, who understand what's going on, and yet it takes real courage to step up and say, buddy, I love you. Come see me after the meeting. Let's talk about that divorce you've been talking about for months now. Let's get past it. Let me suggest something called a piece of inventory or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? Dr. Bob, in a talk that he did, this was a transcript from a talk that a guy named Bob Bacon did many, many years ago, and there's a quote in here from Dr. Bob. I want to read this thing. We hear a lot of ridiculous things like there are no musts in AA. My book, Big Book, read different. People say that it's an individual program that we can take the steps any way we want to. Dr. Bob said, and I quote, there is no such thing as an individual interpretation of the 12 steps. Okay, now, I won't read the rest of it like that. We'll get to it. There's no such thing as a personal interpretation of the 12 steps. And then somebody sent me, after I got this, some months later, somebody sent me this. This is from the AA Grapevine Statement of Purpose. I'm not bagging on the Grapevine. Don't come see me about it, okay? Just listen to this. The awareness that every AA member has an individual way of working the program permeates the pages of the Grapevine. And throughout its history, the magazine has been a forum for the varied and often divergent opinions of AAs around the world. I won't read any more of that. It makes me sick reading it. You understand what I'm saying? So we have an outside entity, the Grapevine, that says that not only can you say your stupid stuff about our program, we'll also report it so that the new guy can be even more devastated by our mixed messages and our conflicting information. All I want to do is just get on the same page. If AA is a behavior problem, and we're going to treat it as a behavior problem, and it's all about just fun and games and just processing stuff and talking like this, then let's all get on the same page and do that. But let's also at the same time get on the same page and realize that that's not what the Big Book gave us as a description of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. That was not what they were talking about when they talked about this. When you look at old school AA and you line it up with what we see in most metropolitan areas now, 98% of every meeting Every meeting on the continent of Australia is what they call an ID meeting. All it is a discussion meeting on how we got there. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I got to ask you, after a while, who of us in the room give a rat's butt how you got here? And what does it tell her? Listen, she's the new guy, and all I want to do is be able to say, the only thing that she cares about, she doesn't care about my grandkids, she doesn't care about my boss that I can't get along with, she doesn't care about my mother-in-law, she doesn't care about that. The only thing she cares about, can I get up in the morning and not obsess about drinking? Can I get up in the morning? Can I put a life together that's worth living? Can I pay my bills? Can I stop taking a swing at my kids? Can I live a life with my husband like I signed up for 20 years ago? Can I do this? That's all she wants to know. Do you understand? It's just like somewhere along the line we end up with this whole idea that this whole thing is a behavior problem. It's not. It's not. We have a mental component of this. We have a physical component of this. We have a spiritual component of this. And when we begin to understand this stuff, when we begin to understand in a big way what happens on this stuff. Listen, let me just ask you, how many of you guys have ever stopped drinking for a period of time? Maybe just you told your wife, okay, we'll go to the party and I won't have a drink. Any of you guys ever remember that situation, doing that like that? Yeah. And in the back of your head's going, but sweet pea, you're going to suffer. Because if I can't drink, I'm going to make sure that everybody else suffers too. I mean, that's a deal like it. Or did you ever find your situation where you stopped for a period of time? Most of you are great stoppers. Most of you are grade A, perfect stoppers. We just happen to be better starters. You know, so stop and think what happens. I'm a 48-hour wonder. Guys, I can stop on a dime. I don't care what it is like this. And for 48 hours, I'm actually feeling pretty good. I mean, you know, I'm okay. I can work better a little bit. I seem to be getting it back together. Somewhere along 48 hours into the deal, though, a week, restless, irritable, and discontent begins to reassert itself. All of a sudden, I'm getting kind of grindy. All of a sudden, I'm going, what'd you mean by that look? Did you see what I'm saying? All of a sudden, the bedevilments that they were reading in the workshop this afternoon all start creeping back into the deal, and I'm feeling just like I'm coming apart. Nothing ever in my life has ever felt worse than that feeling of being restless, irritable, and discontent years from my last drink. Let me tell you something, booze and those other outside issues will treat alcoholism like nothing else in the whole wide world, and if it would keep working, we would all still be out there doing that. The problem is that for most of us it stops working and we have no other choice except to do what we do here. It's the only gig in town, guys. That's the reason I'm so adamant about it, and this is the reason I get so passionate about that stuff. It's the only gig I know that works this way, that works so well, and why I become, as I get older, so much more protective of the fellowship that we understand and the program that was handed to us 76 years ago. Amazing stuff happens. Let me tell you a real fast story and we'll be done. I want to read this to you real quick. And this too. No, I'm just kidding. It's just... You poor guys. This is online, or you can write me, and I'll be glad to send it to you with a click. It's good. This is called Whose Responsibility? And Bill Wilson wrote this in 1966. Now remember, by 1966, the discussion meeting has been introduced into the meeting formats. We all dig it. We thought it was the greatest thing in the whole wide world, but we began to take the program part and set it kind of aside. Not everywhere. There were still places where people were doing it, but there were a lot of problems coming up. Bill was concerned, and so he started writing a lot about this. This same type of piece was written in 4 or 5 different places over about a 5-year period, where he's trying to kind of knock down this idea that we're coming up with something new and different. Why don't we go back to doing what was working? So I just want to read, an AA group as such cannot take on all the personal problems of its members, let alone those of non-alcoholics in the world around us. The AA group is not, for example, a mediator of domestic relations, nor does it furnish personal financial aid to anyone. Now, though a member may sometimes be helped in such matters by his friends in AA, the primary responsibility for the solutions of all of his problems of living and growing rests squarely upon the individual himself. Should an AA group attempt this sort of help, its effectiveness and energies would be hopelessly dissipated. Here it is. This is why sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of AA's 12 steps, is the sole purpose of the group. If we don't stick to this cardinal principle, we shall almost certainly collapse. And if we collapse, we cannot help anyone. Dig? Guys, We have tens of thousands of meetings a day where people want to talk about alcohol. But we have a precious handful of meetings where people are talking about alcoholism. Two distinctly different things. Two distinctly different things. This is the reason why if we could get everybody back on the page a little bit. I'm not trying to raise up an army of zealots out there with big books in their hand, beating people up the side of the head. I don't want to paint that kind of picture. I like, there's a big difference between being a zealot and being full of zeal. A big difference completely. But how cool would it be if the members of our organization knew and understood the text and were comfortable in teaching the steps to new guys coming in? Wouldn't it change a whole bunch about this? We could still have fellowship. We could still have sober bowling. We could still have all the fun stuff. We could still do whatever we wanted to do there. My problem is I sponsor an army of old gray guys like me that don't know jack shit about this book, and it's painful. Listen, we were in a meeting the other night, and I said, guys, listen, let's talk about, turn in the book to Jim's story. Let's talk about Jim's story and Fred's story. And he goes, okay, and they're like this. These are guys that go to other groups in Dallas that I meet with once a week to just do step stuff. They're all in the back of the book looking at the stories, and I go, guys, Jim's story, Fred's story, kind of like towards the front of the book. Oh, and they're over there taking it a page at a time, 35, 36. They're just going through the book like that, trying to see the name Jim and Fred so they can, but they didn't know it was there. You understand what I'm saying? They'd never read it like this. And these guys have a collective total sobriety amongst them of 122 years. Collectively, those 6 men have sponsored 5 men in all of those years. One guy's been sober almost 30 years, and he sponsored 1 guy. Wow, come on, we gotta stop doing this. Let me tell you a story. I got really, really healthy studying the text with those guys. There was one piece of the puzzle, though, that was missing, and that's 12-step work. I wasn't convinced that I would ever be able to do any of it, and so I was just going to not do it. So I was going to grow up and be a guru in my meeting, sort of the answer man, and but I was just going to sit. I wasn't going to really do anything. And one day I realized that Clifford's, he keeps asking me to go with him. I'm going with him 2 or 3 times a week. He's out carrying the message, and I'm carrying his books. I'm his book boy. So I'll drive him and carry his books in. He does the talk, and then I gather the books up and go back outside, get on my stupid cell phone, and while he's in there working with drunks. And so one day he said, Myers, you're never going to get this if you don't do what I do. And I went, okay, what do you want me to do? And then they tricked me into going to a wind-up joint, and then they didn't show up, and so I had to take the gig all by myself, and it was fairly devastating to me. But I did, and what happened from that is that my life was transformed. Some of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been there, you've done this stuff. I got to tell you, if you have not experienced true 12-step work, out carrying the message to guys in wind-up joints or treatment centers or halfway houses or whatever it is you're doing, if you've never done that, you're in for the greatest treat in the world. It's the coolest gig out there to go do what the book asks us to do. The book never said, sit on your butt in a meeting and wait for a newcomer to come see you. It didn't say that. We've just gotten lazy. We just let this happen. I'm not judging it because I'm a card-carrying member of that club. But these old dudes made me get up and go do this stuff. So I'm at this place one night. Now you can't keep me away from it. I'm going 3 nights a week, and I'm just having a great time with it like this. And this guy walks in one night like this, Terry, and it'd take me just a second to tell this story. Terry was living in the back of a pickup in Oak Cliff, and in between 2 buildings, and he's living in the back of this thing in the middle of the summer. The skeeters, it's right on the Trinity River. The skeeters have eaten him alive, and he's just a mess. And during the night, there was a gang of guys walking up and down the street back there, and they saw him sleeping between this building, and they ran up there like this and thought it would be really funny to pull him out of the back of this pickup. It would have been really ha-ha, except Terry was sleeping on his stomach in the back end of this pickup, and the very first thing that hit when they pulled him out by his ankles, the first thing that hit was his face. And it messed him up. I'm telling you, it broke his jaw, broke his nose, busted, all of his teeth got pushed through his lip, and he was just a walking, talking freak show. And he's in the treatment center that I'm working at. I mean, that I'm carrying the message to. And so he comes walking in, I go, golly, and I just went, man, and I did my whole talk that night. My whole pitch was standing just like this. They could have been on fire over here, and I never would have known it like this. And I'm doing my deal and pitching over here, and I'm talking to these guys because Terry's the ugliest man I've ever seen in my whole life. And I'm thinking, I get done, I got to light this guy's cigarette, light that girl's cigarette, and I'm just like this, messing with these guys, ignoring these guys. And I'm thinking, okay, the room's getting kind of quiet, maybe they're gone. And I look back at my book, and I look over here, and Terry and his buddy are standing right there next to my podium. And Terry says something, and I said, buddy, I can't understand you. And his buddy said, he wants you to sponsor him. And I went, of course, thank you, Lord. So I get stuck with the ugliest human being on the face of God's green earth. I can't even stand to look at him. How am I going to get him through the work? Well, a long story short, I fall in love with this guy. He's everything. You would not believe this guy. It's a 2-hour bus ride over there to that meeting where we meet, from where he is in Oak Cliff. And my deal to him is if he'll get over there, I'll get him home. So every time, I got guys I sponsor that live 100 yards down that road from where we meet, and I can't get them to come to a meeting. And Terry's riding a bus 2 hours over there every Tuesday, every Thursday. He's there like clockwork. We get him through the work. It's the craziest thing like that. I got to tell you a little piece of this. Sometimes I leave this out, but I want to make sure that we're doing inventory with this guy, and I'm in this park. It's been raining in Dallas at that time. It'd been raining for 3 days. The sun hadn't been out at all. And the place that he lives is a transitional place, and they'll let me take him out of there, and so we're sitting in this park so we can get some privacy. And so as we're sitting there, he's facing west and I'm facing east, and we're sitting there getting through this inventory, and as I'm going through this stuff, I'm showing him some things, and he goes, oh man. And I looked at him, and he's crying, and I said, what's wrong, Terry? And he said, all of these are the same. Myers, I'm selfish and self-centered. I'm dishonest. I'm inconsiderate. And I went, yeah. Normally I'm trying to pull this stuff out of men, and he sees the whole thing like this. And he says, let me tell you this. And we talked for about 20 minutes, and he looked at me and he says, I cannot believe I finally figured out how to get free of this. I'm finally going to walk free of all this hate that's in me. And I went, wow, this is the coolest stuff. And about that time, the sun is setting right on the horizon, and it breaks underneath the cloud bank and shines out across that park, and it's like a laser beam coming across that park like that, this bright sun right about 7:30 in the evening like this, and it's shining right in Terry's eyes, and Terry's got the greenest, prettiest eyes and red hair, and he looked like an angel sitting right across from me. That was for me. Thanks, God, because I'm telling you right now, I'm thinking this is the ugliest man that I've ever seen, and God just showed me he's one of God's kids, and he ain't ugly, so shut up. And it was the coolest. And man, I tell you, we got working, we got busy, and so he comes in one day and he says, Myers, I want to borrow $5. I said, man, I don't want to loan money to drunks anymore. I'm broke loaning money to drunks. He said, $5, Myers, you cheap bastard. And I went, okay, here. I said, what are you going to do with it? And he said, it's none of your business. I'll see you Thursday. And I said, okay. Thursday, he shows up. And when he walks in like this, he's helping me set tables and chairs up, and there's a bucket with a squeegee sticking out of the front of it. And I said, Terry, what's that? And he goes, this is my new business. And I said, excuse me? He said, my new business. He said, and he handed me a business card. It's got some initials on it. He and another guy started this window washing business, and they're taking a bus over to the rich part of town, washing windows all day long, meet me at the meeting, and we have our little deal, and then we have the meeting after the meeting on the way back to Oak Cliff. It was working great. So one day I decided I want to find out, I know the neighborhood that he's working these windows in like this, and so I'm just going to drive up and down. I'm early to the meeting like this, and as I drive down like this, I turn the corner, and he's got two big old ladders on the second floor of this building, and he's got a guy up on the top of these ladders, and they don't see me park my truck. And so I get out and walk up there like this, and then as I get up close to the ladders, I'm looking up like this. They still don't see me standing down there like this, and Terry's up there going, no, it's the mental obsession. You're leaving the mental obsession completely out like that, and he's hammering the big book to this guy standing on the top of this ladder like this. I'm just going, yes, this is what we signed up for. A couple of days later, he brings me something. He says, you got to see this. And I said, what is it? And he said, it's my CDL. And I said, what is that? And he said, it's my license to drive a truck again. And I went, you're leaving? And he goes, yep. I already got a gig, already got a job, and I'm going on the road, and by the end of the week, I'll be on the road. And I went, Terry, I don't know. We ought to talk about this stuff some. Listen, I got to tell you, this is between, I'm the one that's suffering now, because I've kind of fallen for this guy. He's just like my right-hand man. He's always there. And anyway, so he goes and does this deal. I said, Terry, now stay in touch, okay? Let's do this. It's just about the time when cell phones are starting to be pretty prevalent, okay? So it's not like he had a cell phone. 3 weeks goes by, and I don't hear from Terry. I'm so mad at him, I could kill him. If I'd have seen him, I'd have hit him. And so he's not calling. So finally, one night, 10 o'clock on a Friday night. Listen, is there any call at 10 o'clock on Friday night that's a good call? I mean, probably not. And so he calls, I pick up the phone, and he goes, Myers, Terry. I said, Terry, what's up? Don't hang up now. Where are you? Are you okay? He goes, oh, I'm fine. I just got a question for you. I said, what's the question? And he said, well, I got a problem. I said, I knew it. That's why you called me at 10 o'clock on Friday night. And he said, no, I mean, it's just, we missed our load today. We were supposed to drop off and then leave, but when we got there, it was after everybody left, so I'm stuck here until Monday. And I said, and that's a problem? How? And he goes, well, they don't have any AA here. And I went, Terry, you're going to be fine. What are you worried about? And he goes, well, no, you're not, listen to me. I said, okay. He said, they used to have AA here. They used to have it at the cafe where we had coffee this morning, but they don't have it there anymore. And I'm just wondering, you reckon it's possible for me to start an AA group here? And I went, I guess. Well, I guess, go ahead. And he goes, great, thanks, bye. And he hangs up. I go, no, Terry, no, don't hang up. About 3 weeks later, on Friday night again, I get a call from Terry. And I pick it up. I said, Terry, stop. Listen, let me talk, Terry. If you hang up on me again, I'll crawl through this phone line and beat you to a pulp. Don't hang up on me. And he goes, okay, I'm not going to hang up on you. And I said, okay, so what's the problem? And he goes, well, if everything is okay. And I said, where are you? And he said, I'm up in Maine. I said, no kidding. Maine? And he goes, yeah. And he said, but you know what, Myers? They don't have any AA up here either. And I went, no kidding, Terry. And he goes, yeah. He said, you reckon I could start something up here too? And I went, yeah, I could send you some stuff. He said, great, here's the FedEx information, and like this. And I sent him a bunch of books and crap and stuff, and just sent it to him to his hotel. And the point is here, what he was doing was he was going up there with a load and stopping at these places that he was setting these meetings up at, and then he would drive deadhead back to Texas, pick up another load, and then come back around and do the same thing all over again like this. Guys, I got guys that I sponsor that I have to beg to do 12-step work. Bill thought it was so important that he wrote a whole chapter on it, chapter 7, working with others, and we discount it as something that's just sort of, if you feel comfortable and if you get all your other ducks in a row and you can't think of anything else in the whole wide world to do, maybe you could do this 12-step work. That's the way we couch it. And the book didn't say that. The book said, go do it. If you're sober today, go do that tomorrow. And here's this kid, 6 months sober, that's starting groups and carrying a message and doing the things that he's supposed to do. You understand what I'm saying? Terry's in Montana now someplace. He married a little girl, a little nurse, got him some new teeth, and it was... It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I love to garden, and I'll do anything in the world to be in a garden. And I was, in the old days, I remember messing with tomato plants in the evening. I remember a particular evening when I was so agitated and irritated about everything. My life is coming apart. I'm sober, but not happy about being sober. In a couple of minutes, I get to go into a house with a bunch of kids that are just driving me to distraction. This beast of a woman I'm married to is in that house. I have to get up in the morning and go to a job that I absolutely hate. And I meet an old dude named Cliff Bishop that had the nerve and the backbone to say, listen, you little pissant, you don't know anything. Why don't we do this? And he made me work steps I didn't want to work, and I had an experience that I never dreamed I could have. So fast forward, I'm in the same garden, messing with the same tomato plants, well, in the same place anyway, different tomato plants. And I'm excited and kind of anxious, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and I began to realize in a couple of minutes I get to walk into a house and see a family that I absolutely adore. I get to be with a woman that is the finest woman ever put on God's green earth. And I get to get up at 4 o'clock and go to a business that I cannot wait to be at. What happened? Did the job change? Did my wife change? Did those kids change? No, I changed. You see, this is what we signed up for. The fact that you're sober today, I'm delighted that you are. The question that I want to ask is, can you be sober and happy? And that's the big question, guys. Some of our meetings look like we just walked out of somebody's pet funeral. We got thousands of us dying in meetings of untreated alcoholism thinking that we're doing the deal because we're going to a bunch of meetings. If Bill Wilson had thought the meeting was so important, he'd have written it on those steps. Step 13, go to meetings. He didn't say it. I'm not saying don't go to meetings, guys. I'm just saying that while we're there, why don't we stay focused on what we're talking about and see if we can't scoop up some little buckaroos to help, okay? I love you, cats. I'll see you later. Thanks. You did great.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.